As someone with a sewing YouTube channel, I have a lot of sewing supplies, but which ones do I use the most? Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jen. This channel is all about making sewing and crafts fun and approachable. And this one is aimed more at the beginner sewist because I wanted to go through a list of the sewing supplies that I use the most. Now, I know when you're just starting out, it can be a little bit confusing and a little bit tricky to figure out what to actually invest in, what do you need, because money does not grow on trees. We are all on a budget when it comes to buying sewing supplies. So I wanted this to be a helpful resource for someone who is just at the beginner stage of sewing. And a big thank you to today's sponsor, SewTites. This is a small company owned by two sisters, the creator of magnetic sewing pins and handy notions. I've been using and loving SewTites products for years and am very proud to welcome them as a Sewing Report partner. SewTites Originals offer a way to pin when you can't. For instance, working with materials you don't want to poke holes in. They're so easy to use, just slide the magnets apart, position your fabric, and snap on the SewTites. SewTites also come in handy at the embroidery machine when you're floating material over the hoop. These are available in the Sewing Report Etsy shop, and you will see more SewTites products coming soon. Be sure to check out and subscribe to the SewTites YouTube channel with a mission of empowering you to live magnetically. I've been sewing for about 10 years now, so I've had a lot of time to buy things and to amass quite a collection of supplies. Plus, this is actually my job. I'm a sewing YouTuber. Just for the channel, I've been trying things out, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what supplies I actually do like the most. And like many of you, I've certainly bought things thinking I would use them, and then I didn't end up liking them or didn't end up using them. So I don't want you to waste your money on stuff that you're not going to end up really using and liking. Now, this list doesn't include the super basic stuff like a sewing machine, thread, needles. We all know you need that to sew. So this list is more of the sewing notions or kind of extras that I find myself using all the time. And a quick disclaimer, everything featured in this video I did purchase myself. There will be a list in the description box with some links. Some are affiliate, and some of these products I actually sell myself in the Sewing Report Etsy shop, so you can check them out there as well. Okay, first let's go over cutting implements. This is a big one. We all need to cut fabric, cut different things within the sewing room, cut thread. So I want to share the ones I use the most. Rotary cutter. Sadly, this one is discontinued, but it is my favorite. I've tried quite a few of these. This is by the brand Gingher. Gingher sells all kinds of cutting tools from scissors, thread snips, and they used to make a really great rotary cutter, but this has since been discontinued. I don't know why. Gingher, please bring this back. I just love the way this feels in my hand. It's metal and it has a rubber grip on the inside. It's very easy to use. It just feels very nice in my hand. It's got a little bit of weight to it, but it's not too heavy. Recently, I did find a pretty good dupe for the Gingher rotary cutting blades because those are also discontinued, sadly, and I wanted to try to find a good alternative, so I'm going to link these blades. They are gold. They work pretty well, and one thing about the Gingher rotary cutter is that unlike many 45mm rotary cutters, this one has a round shape for the inside of the cutting blades. Many have kind of like this little tri-spoke thing going on. This is magnetic, so the blade sticks to it pretty easily, and then you just kind of twist this in, and then your blade sits very nicely in there, and it's got a little safety guard so you don't cut anything while you're not trying to intentionally cut stuff. But this is hands down one of the best purchases I ever made, and I'm really sad that Gingher no longer makes it because I have not found a great alternative to it. If I do, I'll let you know. I've heard people say there's a Tula Pink rotary cutter that's fairly similar. I have not tried it, but then maybe one you can check out. The next thing is scissors. I have all kinds of scissors, but these are probably the three. I would say if you could only buy three, this would probably be my top picks. These little scissors are available in the Sewing Report Etsy shop. It's got a double curved handle on it. There's the little finger holes here, and then it kind of dips twice. So it dips here, and then it's got this little curvy snips on the end. These are amazing for snipping thread very close to your fabric, so you can get a very close cut without actually cutting into your fabric. These are fantastic. I find I use these pretty often. They're just really handy to have around. The next pair is one I've had for a while. These are Gingher fabric scissors, really beautiful. I also own some more expensive versions of these. These are about 8 inches. These are widely available, but I also have the comparable versions from William Whiteley & Co. and the Ernest Wright Company. Those are much more expensive. This is a much more budget-friendly version of those scissors. They work beautifully. They fit pretty nicely in my hand. I do kind of like that they don't have grips on them, but sometimes if you're cutting fabric for long periods of time, you can get some hand fatigue, but that's kind of to be expected with any pair of scissors like this. It's got like kind of a bent handle on it, so you can really cut close to your cutting surface. So I do really like these scissors. These are fabric only. I've got some fabric on these to denote that, but you don't want to cut paper or anything else with your fabric scissors. You only want to cut fabric. This one comes with a little plastic sheath to protect the blades, and I also keep a lot of my stuff hanging on my IKEA SCOTUS little organizational system you can see in the back. I also have a video on installing this if you are getting this and you want to know what to do, but this, I guess that could be counted on the list, even though this is not technically a sewing notion, but I do use this every day, and it's the backdrop for the sewing report set. These are serrated scissors by Kai, and they are new to my collection, but I'm finding I use these all the time. I love the color. These are such fun scissors. Comes with a plastic sheath. These are also available in the Sewing Report Etsy shop, shameless plug. And these serrated blades I'm finding are really handy for, you can cut pretty much any type of fabric with it, but it's great for fine or slippery fabrics because the fabric doesn't like slip away from the blade, if you get what I'm saying. So I find it really kind of grips the fabric well. One side of the blade is smooth, and then this blade has the tiny little serrated edge, but I'm really glad I picked these up. These were fairly affordable. They do have like a rubber grip handle. After a certain amount of time, it's not super comfortable, but again, I haven't found any scissors that are like ridiculously comfortable while cutting anything for long periods of time. If you have a recommendation, let me know down below in the comments, but I think these are pretty good and they're a great value. I have not tried a ton of Kai products, but they have a good reputation as far as a sewing tool brand, so I wanted to try these out, and so far I really like them. And even though I haven't owned these for a long period of time, I've been using these a lot. The next thing I want to talk about is the surface I'm using for this video and in many videos, which is my pink cutting mat. This is a 36 by 48 inch cutting mat. It is self-healing. I wouldn't say this is like the best cutting mat in the world. I bought it because it did the job. It was the right size, and I really liked the pink color. Now it is pink on one side and it is blue on the other side. I like pink, so I decided to use the pink side. I did accidentally set something really hot on the surface and it did warp it a little bit, but I've been putting something heavy on it to kind of fix it. It is by the brand US Art Supply. There are quite a few different brands of cutting mats, so this is not the only one. And I wouldn't say I would give this the highest rating. I would maybe give it like a 7 out of 10. So I'm just being completely honest with you. But again, for the price, I felt like it was a good value. It works. It doesn't heal up as well as I would like though. So you can see there are places where I've cut a lot. I've used the same cut line and you can clearly see like some damage to it. So I'm not sure how long this will last me. And I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, quite frankly, because it's so freaking big. When it gets nasty, maybe I'll flip it over and start using the blue side, see how long that goes. But I've been trying to set something really heavy on the area that got warped to try to fix it. So hopefully I can do that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But this is one of my most used sewing tools for sure because it's literally what I work on. It's what I cut on, and it is very handy. But again, I wouldn't say this is the best cutting mat in the world or anything like that. This one I had to grab right off of the IKEA SCOTUS. This is the Creative Grids ruler, and this is the 8.5 by 24 inch size, 24.5 inches technically. And this is an amazing ruler. I use this for cutting fabric. In my opinion, it is the perfect length for cutting fabric off of the bolt or cutting yardage. I think it's amazing. Usually most fabric is about 42 to 44 inches wide, so it's folded in half. selvage to selvage, and that makes it about the perfect width to cut with this lengthwise ruler. It's great. I use this with my Gingher Rotary cutter, and it's an amazing duo. I've had this ruler for quite a while. My old one got like chipped, so I gave it to somebody else and I ordered a new one. Just a caveat, do not order your Creative Grids rulers from Amazon because they've had a very big counterfeiting problem. So I would recommend only buying Creative Grids products from authorized retailers. And it is kind of hard to become a retailer. I tried to stock this product myself, and I'm not even allowed to purchase these wholesale. So I'll leave a couple links down below in the description box, but just buyer beware. I would not recommend buying these from Amazon, and Creative Grids does not allow any of their authorized retailers to sell these on Amazon, only on like standalone websites. So this is certainly a much used and much loved item here at the Sewing Report. Now we've got the Clover hot ruler. This is another item in the Etsy shop, and I feature this quite often over the years. You've seen this before if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time. This is a really handy tool for hemming or trying to fold over your fabric a certain amount, like a ½ inch, an inch, 2 inches. This is 2.5 inches wide by, let's see how long it is, by 10 inches long. It's sort of like a very thick felt. That's what it feels like. It is heat safe, so you can press over it. I use this when I was making masks during COVID. I use this quite often when I'm just trying to like fold over fabric a certain amount. So yeah, I use this all the time. It's a really great tool, and it's actually held up. I've had this for several years, and mine still looks pretty good. If you are hemming a lot or needing to fold things over a certain amount, this is also good for pressing out corners. This version isn't quite as used as the hot ruler, but this is the hot hammer, and it's a little bit shorter, and it also has a curve on it, so you could use it to cut curves, kind of have everything uniform, and you can also use it to fold over corners, like if you're doing mitered corners or another project like that. But this one isn't as used. I definitely use the hot ruler a lot more. Let's talk pins. This is a sewing essential. Every sewist needs pins. I have quite a few here at the Sewing Report headquarters, but these are my current faves. This is the Magic Pins brand, and these are extra fine flathead. Now I have magic pins. I've tried different versions of magic pins. I like them all. This is a newer style, and I really like that it has a flat head on it. I think this is great for pressing. The other ones I have like a rounded grip. I really like picking these up. I love the color. I love the little plastic carrying case it comes with. I personally like the extra fine version of the magic pins because I find they don't leave holes in my fabric. The actual length of the pin is about 1.5 inches. Total length, including the head, is about 2 inches, but these are definitely my favorites. I've been using these whenever I need pins, and these are also available in the Etsy shop. With certain projects or certain tasks, you need to do the same function as pinning, but sometimes you can't use pins, or sometimes there's easier ways of doing it without using pins. So that's why I want to talk about some other alternatives like sewing clips. These are my most recent sewing clip acquisition, and these are great. These are glitter clips. Sewing clips pretty much all the same, but I just really like that these are glittery. I just think they're more fun. They come in this set. I think I got like 50 of them. They come in clear, purple, and navy blue. I just think a really fun color combination. Sometimes the clips are easier than using pins, or you don't want to cut into the fabric like you're using like a laminated cotton, or you're using another material that you don't want to poke holes in because the holes would be permanent. So sewing clips are a great alternative. The other thing you can use for certain projects, and I use these for quite a few different tasks, are these SewTites magnets. And at first I got them, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with them, but I keep finding more and more uses for the magic pins. First of all, I have to say I love the fun colors that SewTites produces their products in. Like, they're just fun. Like, I just like my sewing tools to be fun. I don't know about you, but this is a really nice bright aqua color, and I used these recently for attaching a patch pocket onto the lining of a pouch I was making, and I was also using laminated cotton, so obviously I couldn't use pins, and I don't want anything permanent, so these SewTites worked great for keeping that pocket in place until I sewed it down. I also use these a lot when I'm doing machine embroidery. I use these when I'm floating items in the hoop and when I have a layer of water-soluble topper just over that top layer. I find this works better. I used to use large curved basting pins, like safety pins, but these are a lot easier, plus I'm not going to poke myself. So I find myself coming up with different ways to use these all the time. These are also available in the Etsy shop. You've probably seen these a gazillion times here on this channel, and I'm talking about marking pens. I love my marking pens, and I have different pens for different situations. These are all soluble pens, so these do disappear. This one is a very popular one in the Etsy shop, all available in the Etsy shop. This one is purple. It's got a very thick tip to it, but it's good for, it's very visible. And this is air and water soluble. All of these are by Clover, and this one is probably my most used one, but I do use these quite often as well. This one is the white marking pen for darker fabrics. It shows up pretty well. You do have to kind of, it's almost like magic. Like when you first write with this white pen, it comes off as kind of clear, and then it kind of becomes whiter as time goes on. And I did find out that this is heat soluble. So if you hit it with your iron, the marks disappear. Not so much water soluble, but this is a really great pen, and I've had good success. But this is a great one because sometimes these marking pens just don't work on darker fabrics. So this is a good one for that. This one is also water and air soluble. This one has a finer tip. This is the pink pen. The marking is like a very dark pink, and it's got one side for the pen, and then the other side is actually the eraser, but you can also use water or the marks will just disappear with time. But this one I like for some situations, just because, if I want to get a finer line. I use this one a lot sometimes I use these two a lot when I'm marking stabilizer in the embroidery hoop. Both of these are great. This one's a little bit less expensive, and I find that I do need more than one type of marking pen for all of my sewing projects. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is Elmer's washable school glue. This you've probably seen me talk about a lot too. I use this for glue basting, and you must use the Elmer's washable school glue, so don't use another type. This is the generic version of it from Target, and I use this for glue basting when I'm doing quilting projects or some sewing projects. This works well on any fabric that is natural. So it works on cotton, linen. It does work on rayon, depending on the situation. This does not work on synthetic fibers, no polyester, no acrylic, nothing that is not a natural fiber. But this does work on cotton. It does work on some cotton poly blends, but if it's mostly cotton. This doesn't work as well on super thick fabrics, but because this is basically just starch, it will wash out. It's also a lot cheaper than some other basting glues I've seen. I always transfer mine into this smaller bottle with a little fine squeezy tip. I do have a few of these in the Etsy shop. This is definitely one of my best sellers, and this helps me draw kind of a finer line when I'm doing my glue basting. If you're doing really thick seams, you could just do it right out of the bottle, but I find the tip on the Elmer's washable school glue bottle is a bit harder to control and a lot more comes out. So I find putting it in another bottle with a finer tip will help you have a little bit more control and accuracy. I use this a lot with quilting. It's great for trying to get accurate quilt piecing, nice corners, nice angles, that sort of thing. You've probably seen me use this a lot here on the channel, and that's because this is one of my genuinely favorite quilting hacks. So that's my rundown of the most used sewing products here at the Sewing Report. What are yours? Let me know which products you use all the time down below in the comments. Plus, if you are new here, I would highly encourage you check out my playlist on learning to sew. I have lots of videos that are beginner friendly, how to use a sewing machine, other videos on supply recommendations, product reviews, beginner sewing projects. You can find it all here at the Sewing Report. I also recently did a video on my top kind of non-sewing essentials, not specifically sewing products, but stuff I use every day here that are kind of like your basic household items. Anyways, I'm Jen with the Sewing Report. I'll see you guys again in the next video. And remember, whatever you're doing, make it fun.